Hello, dear students. Welcome to International Politics lesson. In Chapter 5, I'll try to explain you international politics and security. By the end of the lesson, you will make sense of the notion of security as a contested concept. You will grasp approaches of theoretical perspectives to security, appreciate relevancy of traditional security in great power peace, and recognize complex security agenda in the North-South context. And the introduction is like this. First, I'll give you some information about security as a contested concept, then theoretical perspective to security, and continue with relevancy of traditional security in great power, peace, complex security agenda in the North-South context. Okay. Let's start with the brief definition of security. Security sits at the heart of the most, if not all, part of daily practices of interstate relations in the forms of either talks or actions. It thus takes the most eminent position in the large academic discipline of international relations, particularly in its subfields of international politics, strategic studies, and security studies. Systematic changes and fast globalization that leads to further blurring the division of what international and national are have multiplied actors and subjects of international politics. Okay, let's move on to World War I. Well, it was 1914 and 1918 that urged political leaders on the side of winners to provide security by preventing the occurrence of a new Great War. Political impulse to seek security and the way to reach it in the immediate years after World War I, at least among the winners, were not new desires and necessary conditions to live in. World War II from 1939 to 1945 and subsequent Cold War system brought new political and military measures and ideas about the question of how to overcome insecurity of sovereign states. Descriptive impact of World War II and following Cold War international system largely based on division of military powerful states, limited security practices and discussions among state officials and academics to having produced policies and ideas about protecting the state sovereignty. Cold War ended with the fall of Berlin Wall in November 1989 and the dissolution of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in December 1991. This meant views, actions, and debates on security international politics from the standpoints of both intellectuals and officials in the post-Cold War era. Let's move on to security as the contested concept. In this part, I'll try to explain you military, regime, societal, environmental, and economics. Let's start with security as a contested concept. It's not because it's difficult to define as a word, but because it refers to a situation in which there are numerous referent objects and actors being in a constant interaction. Alan Collins has some definitions for this security. The first one can be summarized like this. Security that contains national, individual, and group security in terms of material and non-material threats against their core values. This is the simplest definition. Collins also touches upon a wide range of security issues in the context of security studies. He deepens and broadens the subject of security by including topics of military, regime, societal, and environmental, and finally, economic security. He pays an equal importance to traditional and non-traditional security issues by putting such issues as diplomacy, weapons of mass destructions, and arms in the first group, and health problems issue of transnational crime and cybersecurity in the second. Collins, as many others do, recognizes the fact that security studies could no longer be limited to old issues and geographical extent of the Cold War confrontation. And he underlines that security problems of developing world where 10,000s of people are dying because of international conflicts, hunger, and treatable diseases each year. And this never could be ignored. Let's move on to our next topic, theoretical perspectives to security. In this part, I'll try to give you brief information about realist thinking on security, liberalism on security, critical security approach, constructivist security approach, and securitization. Okay, let's start with realist thinking on security. Realism provides a wide range of theoretical tools on security, including its both classic and neo-realist versions. Although many scholars argue that the time of realism should be left to Cold War, it was then the dominant explanatory tool. In fact, not so for two reasons. First, the realism has still been offering theoretical and practical tools on state security, war, and peace. Second, almost all of the rest of the theories on security have been in an effort to develop their perspectives on the critics of realism. Okay, let's move on to next part. Liberalism on security. Liberal views agree on the key characteristics of international politics with those of the realists. Liberalism sees security in international politics actually the way the realism does. So, liberal perspectives, however, challenge the realist security assumptions in particular and their views on functioning of their international relations in general by putting cooperative examples of international affairs forward, including the area of security. Okay, the next topic is critical security approach. The key common position of the critical perspectives in their opposition to traditional security theories stems from the way they approach to social sciences. Critical security does not indicate a consistent and specific body of views. There are various critical theories or critical approaches commonly used in theoretical analysis in international relations and international politics, finally, security studies. This makes the critical approach heterogeneous, reflecting various elements from the critical security studies to feminist and postmodernist ones. And our next topic is critical security approach. In critical theory, there is not an objective truth because culture and specific values shape it. Then, as Robert Cox proposes, theory is always for someone and for some purpose. Cox further explains his views as perspectives derived from a position in time and space, specifically social and political time and space. And constructivist security approach. Okay, our last topic is securitization. It's a framework for security analysis developed by Copenhagen School at the Conflict and Peace Research Institute in Copenhagen in 1990s. The concept of the securitization formulated in the works of Ole Wever, Barry Buson, and Jeb de Wilde broadens the content of security by including military and non-military fields into the security studies. Okay, our next topic is relevancy of traditional security in great power peace. In this part, I'll talk about Cold War, economic interdependence, NATO, European Union, post-Cold War, and economy. Okay, the Cold War that had lasted between 1945 and 1989 ended peacefully. Peaceful end of it in the sense of the absence of a world war between superpowers. However, doesn't guarantee that there will not be any in the future. Nevertheless, currently there has been a great power peace which has been producing its own security implications. Economic interdependence is believed to produce not only financial benefits but also bilateral, multilateral, and political gains. The European Union is a classic example of economic interdependence that is thought to have changed old militaristic habits with new peaceful ones. There are, however, counter-arguments. Well, it's argued that US security guarantees and the establishment of NATO against the Soviet threat and the possible military resurgent Germany in the post-World War II period were the main forces and the structures having convinced France of accepting the establishment of the European. There seems to have been a great power peace in the post-Cold War era caused by immense destructive capacities and economic interdependencies of great powers and democratic cultures in Europe. Okay, in the next part, I'll talk about complex security agenda in the North-South context. As you see, there is a migration from South to North, and it has many reasons. Fragility, vulnerability, failure of numerous states in the South in social, economic, and political developments are widely seen today as sources of insecurities which are influencing the stability and security in both South and North. So we can say selective interstate alignments or partnerships between great powers and developing states and rivalries among the unilateral actions of great powers in the South have, to be a considerable degree, determined not only the framework of what the top security issues in an international arena are, but also fates regarding if they are resolved or unresolved. Extreme poverty, unequal distribution of wealth. These are two important issues in the, migration from South to North. There are still nearly 1 billion people who are living in the South with an extreme poverty. Even if many states in the South have been showing progress of economic developments and resolved their domestic societal differences, they are still vulnerable and open to internal and external pressures. Most people in the South become either internationally displaced or refugees, producing more security challenges domestically and internationally. Finally, I can say about this, people in the least developed and developing countries in South are on the move to escape international societal and political conflicts, or they just want to pursue better work and other opportunities in other countries, often rich or more developed ones in the North. Okay, my dear students, this was the brief summary of Chapter 5. Thank you. See you later.